Welcome to the newest episode of the ricecrypto show. Today I am joined by returning guest Jordan from Waters Above. I will include a link down below in the video description and above for the playlist that I created with his 3 previous appearances. We cover a lot on today's show: the recent bank failures, the Ides of March, solar and lunar eclipses, and more as we dive into the esoteric world of crypto. Before we get into it, take time to visit my website at ricetvx.com. There you can sign up for my mailing list so you can stay up to date on all things Rice. Once you've signed up for my mailing list, you will find links for my channels and socials towards the top of the website. Make sure you are subscribed to both of my YouTube channels, Rice Against the Grain and Rice TVX. If you want to support my work directly, as well as get early access, exclusive content for both channels, plus more, join my Patreon. I also wanted to share that I have recently partnered up with ITM Trading. So if you want to schedule a gold and silver strategy call to build your wealth shield and support Rice TVX, be sure to use my specific landing page that you see on the screen, and I will also include custom Calendly links and an 800 number that you can utilize to schedule your strategy call with the ITM trading professionals. And again, it is a way to support Rice TVX. I will include links in the video description for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything shared on today's video. Joining me on today's show is a returning guest. This is his 4th appearance on the show. That means there are 3 previous appearances, and there is a playlist that consists of all of those previous appearances. It is linked down below and in the playlist section here on Rice TVX. Today, I am joined by Jordan from Waters Above. How's it going, my friend?
Everything's amazing. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to another connection. I didn't even actually know we've done 4, so that's amazing.
Yeah, man, it's definitely enjoyable conversations. It seems like a lot of my subscribers and viewers really enjoy our conversations. And as always, I'll have links down below for your website, for your YouTube channel, for your Patreon, and everything that we talk about on today's show. So we are recording on March the 15th, 2023. The video will get released either on Thursday or Friday, so tomorrow or the next day. But today is the Ides of March. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation today, Jordan, because we've had a interesting string of events that have taken place recently, which we'll get into. But as somebody who studies astrology, gematria, numerology, and has combines that with technical analysis and also takes that into real world applications, what are your thoughts about today, the Ides of March?
Yeah, so I've been decoding this over the past 2 years, and it's seemingly that it has a big connection to negative energy. And obviously, for anyone who's unaware of the Ides of March, it's the date that Julius Caesar got assassinated. So this happened a while ago. A lot of these stories, we can't confirm. We're just working with the data we're given, but it's the 74th day of the Roman calendar that lands on March 15th, and it's the assassination of Julius Caesar. And we've seen,
happened in 44 BC is when that took place.
Yeah, and I actually talked about this about 2 videos ago. So if anyone goes over to my YouTube channel, you'll see in the thumbnail it says Ides of March, and you could educate yourself a little bit more on the bigger connections that I made. But nonetheless, we're here today, and as you said moments ago, there was a lot that has gone down since pretty much March 10th up until today. I know the Fed's speaking today. In the past, we've seen big events on this date, and definitely a lot of negative energy, and we could see it today in the charts. I know the Dow is down about 650 points. We've seen Bitcoin have a lot of volatility over the last 48 hours. It wicked up somewhere into the 26,000 region. Right now it's back at 23K. So the whole market across the board is pretty bloody. And
we're sitting,
I can imagine by the
24. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we are sitting about 24. So it is
Okay,
up
thank
and
you.
down.
Yeah.
It's teeter-tottering. I'm looking at CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko. I've got it pulled up on the screen. At the time of recording this, right now, Bitcoin is at $24,340. It's down 6.5% in 24 hours and up roughly 10% for the 7 days. So it's an
Yeah.
interesting day because the gains that we had picked up are starting to lose. And I mean, I'm glad that we saw that kind of shift in energy with crypto, because when the news came out about Silicon Valley Bank initially, the markets got hit and Bitcoin went down to roughly the 19.5 area, which filled the last CME gap.
Yeah.
And then we just shot right back up on the news of more bank failures. We started with Silvergate, Silicon Valley, SVB, and then Signature. And now the contagion is spreading because, as you mentioned, if you just go, I don't like to use Google. I like to use Presearch. One, it's one of my sponsors, and it's an awesome decentralized search engine. But if you just search financial news today, you're seeing like kind of what you were saying. The Dow falls 500 points as Credit Suisse adds pressure to the already troubled anchor sector, banking sector, excuse me. European stocks slide 2.5% via the Credit Suisse information. Why are Wells Fargo and Citigroup falling today? Something broke, but the Fed is still expected to go through with rate hikes, which that FOMC meeting is on 21st and 22nd. I didn't know they had a meeting today. So I'm assuming it's going to be trying to calm the markets down but at the same time, the markets need to come back to reality anyways. But I'll let you talk, my friend.
Correct. Yeah, well, I mean, one other thing to mention as well is this pullback was needed. Like all of what's happened in the last, I would say, 3 or 4 days is insanity. To watch Bitcoin drop from 24K to 19,500 and then back up into the same trading range it was in within 48 hours. I mean, that's insane volatility. And I was telling people a couple of weeks ago when we watched Bitcoin initially break out into that 25K region for the first time. It was like late January, pivot into February. We saw the 12-hour RSI go to 95. That is like really, really, really overbought. And then it dipped recently down to 18. So these are really dramatic swings. And anyone who knows about TA, you kind of get the remnants of what I'm speaking of. But in English, I am saying that this is not typical volatility to see major swings like this as quickly as they're happening. So it's happening because the speed of which the moves are occurring is unprecedented, honestly, and it's historical. If you look at the 12-hour daily chart and zoom out, you see some of these big swings that we're getting in Bitcoin are rare, very rare.
I don't know if you saw this because I know you don't necessarily pay attention to everything news-wise, and especially if it's not like really huge. But CZ from Binance, I think it was Monday, and I'm trying to pull up and try to find a tweet, but there was some sort of industry recovery fund that had been put in place. I forget what the actual name of it is,
Hmm.
and there was something like $1 billion left in that fund, and he decided, it's an industry recovery initiative fund that he had created before, and it was public knowledge. So this is from his Twitter account, and it says, given the changes in stablecoins and banks, Binance will convert the remaining of the 1 billion industry recovery initiative funds from BUSD to native crypto, including BTC, BNB, and ETH. Some fund movements will occur on-chain transparency. So they actually injected $1 billion into the market on Monday. So that may have had a little bit to do with the action starting to go upward, because then the momentum would have picked up with other people seeing price action going upward. So it may not have been 100% natural. I was hoping it was more related to
None of
people
this is.
saying, well, Bitcoin is going to save us. We need to get away from this fiat trash, and this banking system is falling apart, and we
Yeah.
all need to jump ship to Bitcoin. I thought that might be what's happening, but no, it looks like just something like CZ and a few others just injecting some
Yeah.
money into the markets to try to pick them up.
And
But
it's funny
once,
too because that date, Bitcoin went up 8.88%.
was that the number specific?
Yeah, on that Monday, it went up 8.88%.
Wow.
I was just talking about it in my YouTube video earlier that I released. That whole
It's crazy how the
pullback was
numbers
very
are.
ritualized. Yeah.
And speaking of Twitter, you have a Twitter account, so make sure if you guys are interested, you can follow the official Waters Above trademark account.
Yeah, I know. I've had like 3 or 4 people that with thousands of subscribers as scammers. Like, I don't know what they do. They buy fake accounts with thousands of subs, and then they take your picture and they take your name and they start DMing people. It's really sad, but it happens. So I created the Twitter solely to just actually prevent people from getting scammed by these fake accounts that were pretending to be me.
That's crazy, man. I mean,
Yeah.
and you know, speaking of, I have something that I need to share that I don't share as much. Let me get this. Here it is. On screen, it says, beware of imposter accounts. I will not email or DM you regarding anything related to sending me any crypto or money or participating in any kind of investment or pyramid scheme. Report fake accounts. And that goes for Jordan as well.
Yes,
And
that's
any
correct.
content creators. If you're on social media and you know that someone reaching out to you isn't the actual person that's trying to contact you, report the accounts and do help us to get rid of this trash. Unfortunately, it's just part of the game, it seems.
100%. And if you'd like, I could actually share my screen if you want to me to look at
Yeah.
the Bitcoin chart and show you guys a little bit of the code playing out. Just let me know if you could see my screen.
Yeah, well, with that said, I do, and pull it up. But so I'm going to have to release this tomorrow since we're showing some price action. Because otherwise, if I put it out Friday, this is just going to be like an antique.
Actually, yeah, I'm going to show you something that's already happened just to kind of maybe show some of your people that are new to my work how this code works, because you were just showing before the screen cap on my website, and I'm speaking about decoding, utilizing gematria, numerology, astrology with technical analysis. I'm going to show you right now how coded this all is. So on this date right here of February 16th, and you could see my chart clearly, right, brother?
Yep,
Okay.
100%.
So
I
on
got it
this
full
on
screen
this
right now too.
on February 16th, we hit the microcycle top in this cycle. So it was the highest price that Bitcoin went in this entirety of the trading range. And on this day, if you measure from this to the low we just had, it was 22 days. Now, one other thing to mention about this day of February 16th is not only did we make a high, but it got rejected and it ended up being a red candle. Now, if you look right up here while I hold my cursor here, you're going to see it was 3.33%. 333. Then moving over 22 days, we have the low. So from microcycle top to microcycle low. And if I show you the percentage we lost over that 22 days, it was 22%. And then if you look at the day that we lost 22%, you're going to see right here, when I hover the cursor in a moment, it says C, that's closing price. It was $20,222 on that day. 22 days later, losing 22% down to $20,222. Then 2 days after that, we went back up to $22,200 2 days later. This is absolutely coded. There's nothing organic about this price action. This is all really, really beyond human comprehension. This is high level AI that runs this.
Were you
Bots.
bringing this? Did you bring this up in your most recent conversation with Jason from Archaics?
No, I couldn't have because, well, I'm not entirely sure. We didn't really talk too
For
specifically
some
on
reason,
crypto, but I've been doing the
I
internet
feel like these.
circuit lately. So
I just feel like I've heard these numbers coming out of your mouth, and that was the most recent thing. Was that yesterday? Did that come out on the 14th? Did you release that video yesterday?
2 days ago.
Okay. So yeah, I encourage people to check that out. People that are fans of, because I've had Jason on the show a few times. Cool dude. Definitely check out that conversation. I'm glad to know that you guys have connected. I didn't know you
Yeah.
had connected previous. I thought that might have been your first time getting together, so I was surprised to learn.
Yeah, we've actually connected twice before that. So that was our third podcast. And another thing to mention, just what I was saying before, if you look at right up here when I'm hovering my cursor now, it says plus 8.88. Final thing to mention that could be helpful for your viewers, I mean, regardless of when they watch it, is just this TA on the Dow Jones could be helpful because the Dow is bleeding right now. But we had this symmetrical triangle up here that was a pattern going till about 100 days, 100 trading days. It's a really important cycle. And it's not perfectly to wicks. It's just on daily closures. And that's way more important when we're looking at indices or precious metals or Forex. When we're looking at crypto, it's clearly more volatile. So you want to take that into consideration. But this broke down in the structure right here on this day of February 21st, looped down a little bit, came to back test it for a kickback, which a kickback is when you break pattern and you try to get back into it. But this was a clean rejection. So you had this prior support line is now confirmed resistance. It flipped. And then the measured move of this target right here is this blue line. And it's perfectly to where we're trading at right now. Perfect. To the tip of the wick on the day of rejection down to today. This is a complete move. Now, if it continues much lower than this, I think that there's going to be some problems, because if I zoom out now, you're going to see the importance of this trend line right here, this red trend line. We've started to break back into this pattern. The Fed is either going to rescue this within the next week, or they're going to let this just fall. And that would be your continuation of your downtrend. So you have your all-time high, lower high. This is still technically a lower high, and this is your low after lower low. I agree with what you said earlier about the market needs to give back, and this is why I have these areas mapped out around 26,000 to 27,000 points. I think that is going to be happening around fall time of this year, between Rosh Hashanah, which is the Hebrew New Year, and October 14th eclipse. We could definitely get into that later if you'd like, but I just wanted to let you know that I agree with this thesis that this market has way more to give back, and these are only my medium targets. I think this could even go lower depending on how dramatic it is. And I shared this a very, very long time ago in 2 decodes I made. One was called the Shemitah Decoded, one was called the Jubilee Decoded. And I spoke on how 1 year after Rosh Hashanah to end the Shemitah would be your bottom. So if I was to zoom back here, you would see that this is the end of the Shemitah. We basically made lower lows into it perfectly. If I zoom in, you can see the low was happening on Rosh Hashanah, because Rosh Hashanah was the 26th, 27th, 28th. That's right here. Now, if I go 1 year later, obviously it's just September of 2023. We have a lot of time and a lot more room to go. So just want people to be aware that crypto is living in la la land, and the Dow and all these indices and the tech stocks, they're all living in la la land. And we're at the final pivot point to consider that, we're going to have to get prepared now, especially if you're overexposed to markets.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, considering what's just happened, I mean, the Silvergate thing was a few weeks ago, I believe, maybe a month. It wasn't as close together with Silicon Valley and Signature, but they were somewhat grouped together. And the one thing that they all had in common was they're very crypto friendly, crypto related. Signature seemed there wasn't it was Barney Frank, who was on the board, said that basically there was no reason for Signature to be shut down, but it was, which is interesting to think of. So I don't know if, like, with the Fed coming to the rescue and doing this backstop for basically, it's not limited to just these 3 banks or these 2 banks. It's for any bank that's going to need it. So the Fed is pretty much opened up a floodgate for being the buyer and lender of last resorts for these banks. I think it's going to consolidate banks. I think we're going to see a lot of smaller and regional banks start to go away.
I agree with you. I've been talking about a banking merger in 2023 for a while now.
So, and we can get into that, but the Fed is in a tight position. So roughly a week from today, Wednesday, I'm looking at the calendar, a week from today. So less than a week when this comes out is the 22nd, which is when the Federal Reserve is going to say what they're going to do. If they have a meeting today, they'll probably give some indication. The CPI numbers came in, and we came in lower. I think we were at 6.4 last month over year, and this month 6%. So we went down like 0.4%.
I mean, look at the 10-year today. It's down 8%, dude. This is a really, really sketchy market. Like, wow, Ides of March is a very powerful date.
There was an article that I had. I want to see if I still had it pulled up. I had pulled it up yesterday. Yeah, this is it. I had pulled it up yesterday in a video that I did. or not yesterday, but Monday. So let me go over. I'll pull your screen back up. I'm going to move it for 1 second once I get this thing shared.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
this is an important article that relates to what you were saying, and this was on Monday, and today is Wednesday. So bear with me one moment. I'm trying to jump around from screen to screen, copy and paste, go to another browser, come back to a browser. Here we go. So 2-year Treasury Yields post the biggest 3-day decline since aftermath of 1987 stock crash. That was on Monday. And it's basically is saying that yield started out at 4.005% and then down nearly 59 basis points, explaining how one basis point equals. The yield had fallen around 100 basis points or a full percentage point since Wednesday. This is again reported on Monday, marking the largest 3-day decline since October 22nd, 1987, when the yield fell 117 basis points. And that was on what was known as Black Monday. And I was kind of expecting a Black Monday, but obviously the Fed came to the rescue. So I was going to pull your chart back up if you want to do this.
Oh, it's okay. I don't really have much more to share unless there's something specific that you'd like me to go over.
Okay. If you want to go over something specific, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, well, I think everything was touched on in my last video regarding TA and charts. So if anyone wants to go check that out, it's all laid out there, and it's like pretty much a full-blown presentation. Yeah, if you reload that page, you'd see that. Now, if you just reload it, you're going to see that a new video popped up because I had it posted right before we connected.
I see that.
So that video is going to be very long, but it's literally like a masterclass. Like I've been treating my videos like if you have a notebook and a pen, you're going to take notes and you're going to walk away from that like it's a full-blown course. Because I went over everything from gematria connections, date connections in the future, showing you how it's all connected in the charts and things to consider with the Silicon Valley Bank debacle that just went down. I think it's funny how Silicon Valley Bank lasted 39 years. And if you take 39 days from March 10th, the day that they failed, it's a couple of days away from the eclipse that's happening in April. So it's like it's all coded in. And it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of this month plays out.
I wonder how Lehman Brothers would be coded into that. And the reason I ask is because it's really ironic, but I'm trying to pull it up with the screen share here. Everything's going slow. This guy, Joseph Gentile, he's the chief administrative officer for SVB Securities. He was formerly the CFO for Lehman Brothers. Prior to joining the firm in 2007, he served as the CFO for Lehman Brothers. So I guess he's the man to bring on to failing banks, or I don't know. There's something about. I was wondering if there is any connection with Lehman since.
Yeah, to be completely honest, I have not decoded Lehman Brothers specifically, but I've been sharing, my thesis around the Shemitah since the beginning of my channel, pretty much now, over 1.5 years, 2 years. And Lehman Brothers went defunct on a Shemitah year right at the end. So that was an obvious ritual. And there's a lot of numbers coded into all of this, but that would get really advanced and it would require me to explain probably way too much. The one thing to say, though, that is fascinating is this Lehman Brothers bank, whatever they are, scam, it lasted 173 years, and 173 is the 40th prime number. And 40 shows up in the gematria code of Mercury. And Mercury has everything to do with commerce and fiat money. He's essentially the god of fiat, money created out of thin air, just useless. Whilst Hades or Pluto, that would be about real wealth because we mine out of the ground. We mine out of the earth, which is where you get your precious metals. So with my work, it's very comprehensive, based in mythology, going all the way back to Babylon, ancient Egypt, etc. And because I've gotten so many questions about how this all works for not only markets, but just our reality as a whole, from the court system to the banking system to global commerce, logistics, law, I'm coming out with a course probably in like 5 months. It's going to be a decoding mastermind. I'm really excited to get that out because I've been getting little things here and there from this banking system as it starts to collapse. And then you bringing up this Lehman Brothers thing and me instantaneously noticing that 173 and the fact that they failed on a Shemitah year. I mean, I could almost imagine that there's a pivot point where I could connect the Lehman Brothers bank failure to the future as of today, and I could start to make huge connections. So thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Yeah, well, I mean, also too, I mean, because when I was listening to you and Jason from Archaea's conversation, I was even thinking about like, how things, if you have like how he has his isometric dates or whatever, you have a specific time period that you go backwards and forwards, same amount of time, and see correlations. And we've also just recently seen with a combination of Three Arrows was more, or I shouldn't even say necessarily Three Arrows, but Sam Bankman-Fried and what he was doing was very comparable to Bernie Madoff as well. So I wonder if there's any correlation to Bernie Madoff and SBF with any of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I already actually pointed this out about the
aside from the fact
Bernie
they were
Madoff,
both frauds, aside from that. Because they have that in common for sure.
I think it brings to life the theories that me and Jason have, which are very similar strategies, just kind of done with our own methodology, but it has the same purpose of taking an event from the past and seeing how it connects to something present or in the future, if you can. Obviously, that's where it starts to get a little bit more difficult when you're trying to predict the future, which I stay away from. I don't call myself a predictions guy. That's not what this is about. I'm about educating people on the code, and then you could use the code as you wish. But with that being said, when I saw that Bernie Madoff died on April 14th of 2021, which is the same day that Bitcoin hit its all-time high initially before a huge pullback. And when were those pullbacks? On eclipses. So if anyone remembers that time, that was the alt season. That was the end of like that first huge leg up in the cycle. And very few altcoins went and rallied into November like Bitcoin and ETH did. Most of them just went on to consecutive lower highs. And also, what were the coins that did go up outside of Bitcoin and ETH? It was Solana and Terra Luna. And Terra Luna went up to $119, which is the mirror of 9/11. And then it crashed to fucking zero. So that was an eclipse that Terra Luna crashed on, a lunar eclipse. And if you look at what Solana has done since, it lost 97% of its value from top. So everyone needs to pay attention to like how this market operates by astrological code, like just basic astrology, but also the symbolism behind the astrology, because Solana is soul, which in Spanish we call sol sun, and Luna was your moon, Terra Luna. It crashed on a lunar eclipse. We saw the Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX ritual happen on a lunar eclipse. So think about this, right? This Bernie Madoff guy, he died on the 14th of April, which is the day before a very popular ritual date of April 15th. Where we have the sinking of the Titanic, Boston Marathon bombing, the day during C-19 with the most cases in 2021. We have the Notre Dame fire. And I found out a pattern there where it's
taxation is theft day.
And tax day, exactly. Well, for the United States.
I call it taxation is theft day, but go ahead.
Yeah. So on April 15th, if you look at the dates that I just explained, it's going to always land on a Monday. So if we have an April 15th that doesn't land on a Monday, like this year, I don't think we're going to have an event on that particular April 15th. But what's special about this information that I'm telling you right now is the next April 15th that lands on a Monday is next year.
In 2024.
Exactly. And it is 1 week after that great American eclipse that'll be happening on April 8th. So I just went through the whole rundown about the importance of eclipses and this April 15th date specifically, how it's a ritual when it lands on a Monday, and that's next year, which is the year of the dragon in Chinese zodiac. So anyone who's followed my work since our prior interviews, I released my year of the rabbit decoded. I'm going to continue on that every year because I believe the Chinese zodiac system is huge in all of this. And we could confirm that pretty easily because the bull run for 2020 into 2021 happened in the year of the ox, the year of the bull. And then it was over moving into the year of the tiger. And then everything tiger symbolism was negative. Like the Cincinnati Bengals lost the Super Bowl that year. And then if you look at the end of the year of the tiger, which was going on in the last Bengals game, they lost Going into the Super Bowl, if they would have won that game, they would have made it to the Super Bowl. They lost that game while we were still in the Tiger year, and they had the same score and the same outcome as they did on the Super Bowl they lost the year before. It was 20 points to 23, the same exact way. Why?
That's
Because we're in the
crazy.
year 2023, and that was all coded. That ritual of the Super Bowl and how that whole playoffs went was by code. And I'm using these sports events and these big, like, exoteric rituals, if you will, to decode how things will go in the future. So the last thing to say about this is April of 2024 is massive. And I've been telling my community that between May of 2023 this year and May of 2024 is going to be an immense amount of change in our world.
Yeah, you were mentioning that before we started recording, and I took note of that. So, I want to come back to this. I want to ask you your thoughts about where we are astrologically, but I also want to make sure that I understand what's going on with the various eclipses, which we'll cover after the astrology. So, being that it's the Ides of March, knowing that there's going to be the total eclipse taking place, a total solar eclipse taking place on April 20th. What is the stars? I'm not asking you to make a prediction, but what are the stars saying as to where we are right now?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I don't actually get too deep into the astrology the way that most people do. I look at it very symbolically, going back to mythology, but just the basics here is in tropical astrology. We are currently in Pisces until March 20th, and that will be your vernal equinox, the spring equinox. And that vernal equinox, spring equinox, is very, very important when we are talking about the year of the rabbit, because rabbit symbolism in that year in all cultures ties back to the springtime, which also ties to Ishtar, Easter, which that's been corrupted by modern religions, but I'll hold that for another day. More importantly, this vernal equinox of the 20th into the 21st is a pivot point because it's a new moon. And I teach in my work that new moons are typically a bullish energy and a full moon is typically a bearish energy. We've been catching up to that very precisely in the last iteration of this, where we saw the February new moon, the market hit top, and then we pulled down into the full moon a couple days later on the 10th of March. We bottomed pretty hard, and then right out of that, we went up. And now we're at the 15th, about 5 days away from the vernal equinox, and now we're within the trading range again. So microcycle tops are around new moons, microcycle lows are around full moons, and astrologically we'll be moving out of Pisces starting on that starting on the vernal equinox, and we'll be moving into Aries.
When
And
is
Aries
the
is the ram, and that's Mars, and that's kind of like your final pent up energy before I think things are going to turn around.
which would make sense with what you're talking about before previously in our last conversation about the solar eclipse and the solar cycle beginning.
So yeah, on the last day of Aries in tropical, which is April 20th, will be the solar eclipse. And that
Right.
is, that's very, very important in my work. I feel like
Well, you said that's a kickoff of the solar cycle too, that would go through kind of 2025.
Exactly. And the last time we entered solar cycle was 2019 in July. So if anyone watches my past two videos, you're going to see me take fractals from the 2019 recovery for Bitcoin between pretty much April through June, July. And that was us moving into a solar eclipse, which is the same thing we're doing right now. We started solar cycle on the July eclipse of 2019, and then we finished it off pretty much in May of 2021. That's why we had that bull run, and then we had the correction. So solar cycle is bull run for Bitcoin, which means bull run for altcoins. Lunar cycle is bear market for Bitcoin, which means bear market for altcoins. And we're now going into a solar cycle, which will be starting on the 20th of April. And I know people heard me earlier just say, well, I think it's going to be bearish after this event. Well, it's not that we are just sky's the limit when we enter solar cycle. It's that we start to reverse trend. So that's very important. We note that. I do
Okay.
think we're still going to pull back after the immediate start of the solar cycle. We have to get through the Bitcoin halving, and then we can start anticipating things like price discovery. So this is a long outlook. We're talking till April, being your critical point in 2024. We just talked about that earlier. We have the Great American Eclipse. We have the April 15th ritual. We have the Bitcoin halving sometime in late April, potentially. That's to
I
be
was just looking
determined.
that up. I was just looking that
And
up, and
then,
you're right on point with that too, because it's like right around my birth. My birthday is April 29th. I'm a strong fucking Taurus, and and
nice.
it says April 28th is the expected, and that would be, if you think about May 24th, if you think about things being kind of crazy and not necessarily the best way between May 23 and May of 24, it makes sense because
Yep.
generally a few months after the halving is when you start seeing the bull market really kick into full gear,
Correct.
leading into
And
2025, bringing to the
and
height of
essentially,
the market. Sorry.
yeah, essentially what this means is black swans are possible before the halving.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I
They're
mean, we
very
just
they're
we
very
just had
possible to
one in
have
a
before the
sense.
halving.
I wouldn't. I mean, the bank shit definitely is. I'm not 100% sure if you would call that black swan, but it's really damn close. So when is the next full moon?
So the next full moon will be in early April on the 6th. So we're actually moving into new moon right now. We've left third quarter and we're on the new moon path until the 21st. In my work, I'm considering up to 5 days after new moons is also typically your microcycle top, like a more bullish energy. And then full moon on the 6th, pivot out, and that's probably your last, chance. I would be really, really surprised to see this market going up after May 5th. It would be very, very surprising based on
So
all of the decoding that I've done.
we have a new moon, which you say are generally bullish, going into the 21st, which is a spring equinox. Yes.
Correct. Yeah,
And then
the
we have
equinox should be a generally bullish energy.
the FOMC meeting taking place the 21st and 22nd.
Yeah, that's exoteric
And there's a
stuff.
lot, right? And there's a lot of talk about what the Fed's going to do with interest rates, being that part of the problem these banks had was because the interest rate increase. So are they going to taper back? A lot of people were expecting 50 basis points, possibly 75. Now people are thinking 25 or none, which
Yeah.
would be bullish for the market, which would kind of kick you off going into like the energy going into the eclipse on April 20th, and then maybe a rise of inflation between now and then, and the Fed just saying we can't, we're going to backstop, but we have to raise interest rates, and that brings the markets down. That's just kind of a theory. I don't know when the next FOMC meeting is. Let me pull that up. Because they're not meeting like every month. So let's see here. The FOMC after it'll be May 2nd and 3rd. How's that for your fucking timing?
Wow. See, I'm telling people these meetings, you got to remember the entity that's behind scheduling them they're like witches and wizards, man. They use
They
like a
have to be.
satanic calendar. They use a calendar that is not the Gregorian, probably a mixture of Hebrew, Coptic, and some other stuff. Like they're doing this all very, very ritualistically because they know that human emotion changes on certain time frames during the month. We know for a fact that during a full moon, we have the most violence breakout. We have people going to the hospital at the highest percentage, especially people who work in corrections at jails, prisons. They see the most fights are breaking out around full moons, most crime happening on full moons. So, these guys know that. They know that if they're gonna move around the market, they need to do it strategically because they're working with human emotion here. That's all this market is. It's a cycle of sentiment going up and down based on what the market makers do.
Okay, so to kind of summarize where we're at, you're thinking that going into the spring equinox through somewhat a little after 5 or so days after the lunar eclipse, we should see some bullish action with all of that changing after the eclipse, which would lead into the May 2nd and 3rd FOMC meeting, which would go into what you were talking about with May 2023 through May 2024. Is that kind of where we're at?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't see, I've been telling people that if we just look at the weeks of the year, like the week numbers in the year, that's a really good indicator. So the 19th week of the year is May 8th through 14th. Just pretty much everything after the 18th week of the year, I'm bearish. So everything after that, just, yeah, basically from May 2023 till May 2024. Like, I can't say anything positive about this time frame. I just can't. I really can't. And I'm a real one. You know, it's not
Right.
it's not
No,
sex,
and I
it's
appreciate
not
that.
sexy for me to say this. Like, it's really not. And by the way, like, I'm not talking about like instantaneous market crash or anything like that. I think it's going to be a typical slow, arduous bleed off that lasts from May all the way into September, October. And will there be events along the way similar to Silicon Valley? Absolutely. Absolutely. Like,
Well, we're already
I'm
starting to
actually
see it.
assuming, correct. But this is not news to anyone who's been paying attention to my work, especially. Like, I've been talking about the Jubilee year is not a year to play around in this game. This comes around once every 50 years. And we saw what happened in the Nixon shock in 1971, which led to the 1973-75 recession. I am predicting that this is the same thing. So crypto is a nascent asset class, and it moves very, very quickly. It kind of lives outside of the cycle that the stock market's in. It has many cycles in between it. So the stock market moves on about a 6 to 8 year cycle, whilst crypto moves on a 3 to 4 year cycle. It's doing 2 bull run cycles within every cycle of a bull run on the stock market. Stock market tends to enter price discovery on 6 year cycles. Bitcoin tends to enter price discovery on 3 year cycles. And this is all mapped out. Like, it's proven now multiple cycles in a row.
Have you taken any time to look at how possibly gold and silver, like precious metal, like monetary metals, would perform during the shit time period of May 23 to May 24?
Yes. So what I do know is that it's typical that during a Shemitah year, which we're not in anymore, we left it. But during a Shemitah year, we tend to be very bullish for precious metals comparatively to everything else. It's one of the better performers. Now, we need to consider that as a chart analyst, like I'm a technical analyst, I can only work with the data of the past. We are past precious metals reality. Like, we're moving quantum. We're moving blockchain. We're moving to the place where when you go to a restaurant, you're going to scan a QR code to look at the menu. This is where it's at. Okay. So I want people to understand that we are moving forward in life. And the only people that are caring about precious metals are people that are hanging on to the old system. I'm not trying to speak ill on any of these individuals because I think that they're a great store of value. If you feel like they hold any merit in your personal wealth plan, then that's beautiful and good on you. But when I'm looking to the future, I think that they're creating a world that's less and less physical when we're talking about money. We're talking about money even on the bartering level. When shit gets really rough, canned food will be 10 million times more valuable than a gold coin.
Yeah.
So people need to wake up to this. Like, no matter what part of the conversation people want to explore with me, I try being as real as I can. I'm not against precious metals, but if we're going to create a wealth plan, it needs to be based in what's the future, and the future has been exposed to us by things like the World Economic Forum. Anyone who studies what's going on with ISO 222, I mean, policy of the Federal Reserve and central banking with CBDCs, it's obvious. Another last thing I'll mention is look at the charts of gold and silver. They have been suppressed and sideways forever. And every time these talking heads come out on Kitco and these big news channels trying to push $4,000 gold or $40 silver, it never happens. And every time we go through a cycle on crypto, we hear the same narrative. Oh, it's never going to go up again. It's going to go to zero. And then what happens? It enters price discovery and we see monumental gains. So the charts on crypto and the charts on precious metal, precious metals to me, show me that precious metals are more of just a distraction in the wealth plan, you'd be better off saving your money and investing it in a business than investing it in precious metals. And I
Well,
see
if you
zero
now,
utility for precious metals moving forward.
and I get what you're saying. I mean, it's proven. Like, here's the thing: if you have X amount in savings and you're not putting it into a business, you're not making your money work for you in that aspect, and you want to remain keeping your purchasing power, leaving it in a bank is not going to be conducive. It's not going to be fruitful for you at all. Putting it in something like gold specifically is going to maintain the value. You're not going to get rich. And that's what I try to tell people. You're not going to get rich owning gold and silver. It's just going to preserve what you have in the present. And then you have crypto to expand upon what you have for the future is the way that I personally look at it. And today, with everything being shitty, Ides of March, everything kind of down, Dow Jones 500 down, Bitcoin, like looking at it right now, it is almost 7% down in the 24 hours. So it's still going down 9% for the 7 days. It's up 9% for 7 days. But gold is sitting at 1945, up $31. Silver is up 18 cents, which obviously that's not really much, but gold is maintaining. It's up to 1945 right now. It seems to have been performing really well since this banking issue, because you're also seeing, I get what, and that's why I try to have, try to encourage people with both gold and silver in addition to cryptos. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to get rich owning it. It's just a way to preserve what you have. But if shit really does hit the fan, some people will accept silver for those, or gold for food, for things that you need in addition to having bartering items, because we could have a power grid takedowns. We could have internet. We don't no access to internet. They could start requiring internet with digital ID. I know that this is just kind of a crazy discussion, but I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts. I mean, we're not always going to be 100% eye to eye on things, and that's one of the things that I respect about you, that I enjoy talking to you about.
Totally. And as I said before, and I preface with it, I do find, there are people that have developed a very sophisticated investment thesis to take care of themselves and their families. And if that includes things like precious metals, then all the power to you.
Right on.
I think it's awesome. If that's what makes you feel comfortable, then that's probably the best move for you to make.
Yeah, because I mean, peace is a big thing too. And if it helps you to be at peace, that's 100%, whatever that might be. So looking at the eclipses, I mean, I had this written down. I was going to go over like what the schedule was, but then I noticed we have a really cool schedule right here on the screen off to the right. So eclipses in 23, we have the April 20th total solar eclipse. And then May 5th and 6th is the penumbral lunar eclipse. Now, generally, you said full. Is this a full moon?
Correct.
Okay, so this would be a bearish moon.
Bearish. Correct.
Okay, which would be right after the Federal Reserve FOMC meeting, and then we have the October 14th annular solar eclipse. Now, when I was looking that up, they were calling that the Great American Eclipse. So, how many Great American Eclipses are we having?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the start.
Which one is the one that you're calling the Great American Eclipse? April 8th, 2024?
I mean, technically, it would just be that October one into the one that happens on April 8th of 2024. So it's that time frame between October 14th, 2023 and this right there. Exactly. So that picture says it all.
Okay. And the way before we started recording, you were kind of saying that the October 14th is kind of bringing the energy in on October 14th, 2023. And then the total solar eclipse taking place on April 8th is kind of bringing it out. And we're seeing that cross section taking place somewhere in Texas.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to have a ritual on April 15th, which would be bearish for the market. And as well, we have that Bitcoin halving, which we're never up during halvings. We're always low. We're always near support during halvings. So I think we're still going to be in a great buying zone for cryptocurrency around that next total solar, which is another way of me saying bearish. Now, after May of 2024, that's when I'm going to be like pretty much all in my investment thesis in cryptocurrency, especially, we'll wait till then because that's a long time away. And I need to have charts and data to make my decisions. But these cycles are, wow. I mean, I've been utilizing them since I started my work and they don't fail me. They don't fail me. Now, the October 14th of 2023 timeframe, I think that's going to be when things are very noticeably bad in the economy, in the whole world. Everything will be very bad then. And I'm not trying to push fear porn or doom and gloom. I'm telling you now in March to prepare everyone that if you're thinking of any draconian, fucked up law changes to happen regarding finance and regarding the Federal Reserve and just the economy as a whole, anticipate it's probably September through October. Remember, we are in a Jubilee year. It comes around once every 50 years, and this Jubilee is over on the 17th of September. So I'm looking at between the 17th of September, and I am looking at between then and the end of October for us to have like a 9/11 like event.
Okay. Which
or like a housing market like event, something similar to the dot-com bubble or the housing crisis that happened in 08.
So when you did the video with Jason from Archaics, and I'm bringing that up because it seems there's a lot of correlating things here. He's talked about with you and with me this false Carrington event, which that's because I didn't have a chance to finish listening to the entire thing because it's over 2 hours.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little bit more than halfway through it, but is that lining up with your September 17th to end of October in 2023?
It's perfectly in alignment. And also shout out to Jason if he's tuning into this. And I would say the difference here between how me and him feel is I don't think this false Carrington event's going to happen the way that he explains it. But I do think an event's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be as like apocalyptic as the way that he explained it, but that's fine because, like you said moments ago, like we're welcome to have our differences. I don't see anything like really, really epic like that happening. Just given how the world is with technology.
You said a 9/11 like event. I mean, wouldn't that be kind of parallel to a 9/11 type event?
No, not at all.
Power grid. Power take.
The event that he's explaining is like 9/11 on steroids times a billion. He's talking about a grid down. He's talking about like some shit that pushes us into like Hunger Games world.
Well, he was mentioning to me. Yeah, he was mentioning.
And by the way, he is brilliant. Yeah, I just want to say this really quick for anyone who's listening. He is brilliant, and his methodology is amazing. I honor him for his work. But when I call I think a 9/11 event was a momentary, it was a blip. It was a drop in the ocean compared to the ocean that he's talking about. Like his event that he's speaking on of having multiple days of an internet blackout, these human beings can't go a fucking day without scrolling on TikTok. It's like heroin to them. If you take away the internet use for a whole day, 2 days, 3 days, you will have civil unrest. You will have I want people to close your eyes and imagine this. Just close your eyes and imagine. How are you going to keep your sheep well behaved and herded when everyone is experiencing the takeaway of the one thing that keeps us all connected in the post C-19 world, which is our cell phones and our internet connection and social media? I just do not see that being a possibility right now. Now, if it happens though, then I think that the way he explained it and the way that he describes it all going down will be accurate according to the way that he talks about it. And I'm not trying to shut down his theory or say that it's inaccurate. I just personally do not see this happening right now. We're very, very cozy and contained at this moment. And we're not ready to have full-blown apocalypse with social disorder.
Mad Max. Yeah, because I mean, if people don't realize, like, if the internet's down and power's down, I mean, people are not going to have access to their money. Banks aren't going to be open. ATMs aren't going to work. So that's going to cause a problem in and of itself. So I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. And I definitely, like you, I respect Jason's work. I'm not trying to diminish it. I'm not trying to compare.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say,
incredible.
are you right or he's wrong? Because I can't say this is more of to me, like, it's not a perfect science. So I like to listen to both of your theories and just try to make sure that I'm preparing myself for things that I may not have thought could be coming my way. Because I think knowledge is power, and it gives us an opportunity to prepare for things, whether or not they take place. Would you rather be in a better safe position, or would you rather be scrambling around when shit hits the fan, if it happens to hit the fan?
Yeah. And like a couple things. One, when I talk about it being potentially a 9/11 like event, or being like a housing crisis like event, well, haven't we been expecting something like that, for a while? Like, we've all kind of been anticipating there to be a moment where the markets and just commerce in general, and this inflation, everything that's happening, starts to show itself, because
Wasn't that
it's
why
the markets.
Bitcoin was made?
Well, that's one of the reasons, which could be a
Right.
positive
From
thing.
from the
It could be very.
2007, 2008 crisis, which basically, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry. But that crisis, we really never truly recovered from it. All we did was just put a band-aid on a wound with all this quantitative easing, which came back to bite us in the ass since then, especially March of 2020, and then now.
Right. And
It's crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up. The historic printing event that they did in 2020 to 2021 was the more than the entire money supply printed since the Federal Reserve's inception back in 1913. That's
Right, it was
insanity.
double, it was more than doubling the money supply. So if we had X prior to 2020, we added that same X plus to the money supply, which more than
In
doubled
over
it.
100 years. You're right.
And people,
So you
right, and
have
people are
double, but
wondering,
in 1 year.
people are like, why do eggs cost so much? What the hell's going on with the price of eggs? It's just
Right.
like,
And this
I
is a
don't
big
get
reason
people,
why,
man.
and anyone could go check my channel out for this, because I have videos going back to March of 2020. March of 2021, excuse me, where I talked about selling my crypto, whether it was XRP, whether it was Cardano, whatever, because I wanted to protect some of those gains to consider for future inflation.
Right.
So I was already teaching that. It's not like Bitcoin's the safest forever. It has its big volatile dips, and when it has those moments, like, it's not a good time to be in it. But on the other side, if you're able to take advantage of buying it at 7,000 and selling it at 60,000, well, then damn, like, you're going to be able to prevent yourself from being a crybaby when your eggs cost 700% more. And if you didn't
No,
pay
I agree.
attention to stuff like that in advance, then it's kind of like, why are you crying now? Because you didn't
And
prepare yourself. And that's all
since you said
investing
that,
gives.
go ahead.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was
no, I was
just
just going to say that's all investing should really be. It's just you taking opportunity and not being, so emotional. And then when time gets rough, you should not be emotional, because you're not going to be able to solve your problems and have solutions in that moment.
agreed. Now, I've made a lot of mistakes trying to time markets and not dollar cost average, as we were starting to hit certain target prices, which is things I should have done in the past. So I'm trying to make better decisions, and ultimately, what I'm trying to look for in the near future is where might be, and this isn't financial advice. This is just me speaking aloud, like me theoretically, but where might be a good place for me in the near future to exit, so that I can have more of a cash position, so that if and when things do go lower, I can buy back in and accumulate more in addition to taking profits.
Mm.
Um, would you think, theoretically, if I was wanting to do something like that sometime soon after the eclipse, or around the eclipse on April 20th, would that be a good time period for me to think about that, if that was something I chose to do?
Can you just say that really quickly? Re-summarize the question. Sorry.
Yeah, I was trying to ask it in a way that was just like not making it sound like financial advice.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no, I understand. I'm just trying to
we should
clearly get
we
what
should
you're.
see local market tops taking place around the eclipse time period, and if someone wants to take profits, because the market will probably head lower, that would probably be a good time period that we would see a good exit point.
Okay, yeah. So again, not a financial advisor. I don't give financial advice, but I'll let
No,
you
I'm
know what
just
I'm
asking
doing. No,
theoretically for me, like,
I
if I
know.
wanted to
I
do
know.
this theoretically, would that be a good time period?
Yeah, I know. And that's why I'm saying this, because I'll let people
Okay,
know what I'm doing. And I've been
cool.
talking about this publicly for a while, how I plan to de-risk about 80% of my portfolio leading into this rally. Also, a lot of cryptocurrencies have already hit their bull trap tops. A lot of them have already completed what I'm calling an automatic rally, which is like a rebound rally after dramatic sell-offs. I believe the stock market has also hit its top when we talk about this so-called bull trap or automatic rally. The Dow is looking like crap right now. It already made its dramatic rally though. Like if you look at the Dow chart, you can see it had a pretty big sell-off and then it had a nice rally directly into the golden pocket using a Fibonacci retracement tool. It's very basic stuff. I teach it in my videos you can watch on YouTube. Well, when it comes to crypto, it's all about these eclipses. So I am taking these eclipses so seriously to the point where I plan to de-risk, as I said moments ago, about 80% of my portfolio. And I will be holding no highly speculative altcoins during this May through October timeframe. So I only really plan to hold Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and everything else to me is fairy dust. That could probably go to zero.
Okay. Well said. Well said. Those are the only three coins that you feel
Yeah,
confident in.
no, I'm confident in other coins, but I think that they have a lot to give back. And because they're pegged to stable coins at any capacity, for instance, USDC being ERC20, I think the whole ERC20 market could completely collapse with a depegging of USDC, but I think ETH will stay. And this is a very odd theory, and it would require me to make like an entire video of it. But
I was going to say you
DAI
should
and
do a
US
video on this.
I know, I think it would be helpful, but it's very, very theoretical, and it would require like people to be super open-minded to what I'm sharing right now because all eyes are on Tether when it comes to depegging and collapse. And I've been the opposite. Even on my Bearable Bull interview, which was a huge interview that I had, I
When was
exposed to
that?
his community. It was about a month ago, and I
Okay.
told him it was posted on his channel. Shout out to him for sharing my work because I said a lot of spicy truth on it that I know most people that are in the XRP community aren't, they're not really ready to hear it because it's a little too true. But
I'll check it out.
My opinion on the tether thing is counter to what most people feel. And when I just watched what happened over the weekend with a slight depegging of USDC and DAI, it's a sign to me. I think that we could see between May and October a couple of stables go down. And my theory is anything tied to them is obviously going to go away. And that liquidity will flood into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the ISO 222 compliant coins. I don't think initially they will go into the ISOs as noticeably as they will into ETH and Bitcoin, as long as this SEC settlement shit is still going on. This SEC case, excuse me, with Ripple. So that's my theory in a brief summary.
Okay.
I am looking at 22,000 altcoins. Most of them are fairy dust nonsense and they need to go away. And when they go away, that liquidity has to go somewhere. And that alone can keep Bitcoin, ETH, and some top projects from collapsing and going another leg lower. Meaning Bitcoin's bottom could be in. Ethereum's bottom at $700 could be in. XRP's bottom at hitting around 20 something cents could be in.
But you don't see like in between the May 23 and May 24, those going lower than those lows that you just mentioned?
Well, it depends. I think that if we look back at the charts of 2014 and the charts of the 2019 cycle, you're going to see that both cycles, Bitcoin never went lower after its initial selling climax lows. So if we're studying cycles, there's no proof of that. Now with ETH, it's a little bit different, but Bitcoin even held its lows from the 2019 lows during the C19 correction. So if you look at the differences, that's amazing because a lot of coins broke structure lower. And if you look today at things like, Litecoin, for instance, Litecoin started trading back into the lows of the C19 levels. That is horrendous. Like, if you really think about that, that would be like Bitcoin today trading at $3,000, $4,000.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin holds structure, ETH holds structure, but everything else is kind of just chopping around and hoping for the best. And if it breaks a critical support level, it could really drown out. And you just pulled up CoinMarketCap a moment ago. It's about to be 23,000 altcoins.
Yeah.
This is
And
insane. This
normally,
has to go
normally
away.
I thought CoinGecko actually listed more coins, but they have less coins. CoinGecko has 11,426, and whereas CoinMarketCap has 22,927, which is just right under 23. Now, there's
Yeah,
two things that I wanted to discuss based off what you said, if that's cool. Unless you have something you want
absolutely.
to add to this real quick, but it's one would be USDC. Let me give you a couple scenarios because both USDC and USDT have worked with the governments of the world, the United States
Mhm.
government, Department of Justice. It's programmable currency. It's the
Yep.
precursor to their CBDC, and it very well could be the CBDC. So Ben Armstrong from BitBoy Crypto has this theory that he thinks that USDC will be basically the digital dollar. Now, in the way that it is now, I don't see that happening, not on a transparent,
No.
open blockchain on Ethereum. But here's something that made me think. Now, if there was more issues with USDC and the government came in to bail out USDC, then the government could essentially just take the project, couldn't they?
Yep. The government could do whatever it wants. The Fed could buy whatever
So
it wants.
right.
They could do whatever they want.
So essentially they could just take over USDC and then change it over to whatever closed blockchain system that they wanted to utilize, if they wanted to do that in theory. So what you said kind of makes me think that there could be some relevancy in that, but I would want to revisit the conversation with Ben Armstrong and ask if he still thinks that it would be a circle investment, because this is the other interesting theory of something that I've looked into over the past few years. And I did a video on this a couple years ago, but you had, and this is a really interesting connection. This will help you with some of your research and maybe give you some
Yeah.
ideas. You
Appreciate
had
it.
Steve Mnuchin, who became the Treasury Secretary. He was a Goldman Sachs guy. I think he was the chief information officer. I can't remember 100% what his position was, but he was like 19, 21, something like that years at Goldman Sachs. And he, after the 2007, 2008 financial issues, he, along with some other individuals, purchased a bank. I can't remember the name of the bank, and they called it One West Bank. And at One West Bank, there were three individuals that worked there in particular, not just three, but the three in particular would be Steve Mnuchin, Joseph Otting, and Brian Brooks. So when Steve Mnuchin
The comptroller.
both comptrollers. Hold on, let me get into this. So when Steve Mnuchin
I'm making sure that I'm following along, brother.
yeah, you're right along with me. So
Okay, great.
when Steve Mnuchin was made Treasury chair, he brought on Joseph Otting to be the comptroller of the United States. And ironically, or maybe not, or coincidentally, and maybe not coincidentally, Brian Brooks took a position as chief legal officer at Coinbase. His job at Coinbase was helping with Coinbase and Circle partnered up for USDC, and he was like road mapping and helping with the development of USDC as chief legal officer of Coinbase. He was doing a bunch of interviews in late 2019 as chief legal officer at Coinbase, talking about how the private sector should be developing these technologies, not the government, like really pushing for that area. And then he ends up stepping down from his position as chief legal officer at Coinbase and is given the position of comptroller. Now, I'm not sure, Joseph Otting wasn't out of the picture. He was just taken out of the comptroller position, and it was then awarded to Brian Brooks after he did what he needed to do over at Coinbase. And then obviously what happened with the change of administration, Steve Mnuchin was out and was replaced by Janet Yellen. But that still doesn't take away from anything that the secretary chair and the comptroller, two different comptrollers of the United States, could have done to impact where we're at today. I mean, they could have even been behind help pushing this legislation that I brought to your attention before the show about going on a state level and trying to amend the Uniform Commercial Code UCC law to change the definition of money to exclude Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but to include central bank digital currencies, because you could easily make an argument that a stable coin could be a central bank digital currency. So that's something for you to think about. Because the only way I can see USDC really going under is if there's an idea to take it over. Otherwise, I see it being the chosen the chosen stable coin. That's why I feel like they came and bailed. Like when Tether got depegged, did the government come and help them out? Because it did get depegged during the Terra Luna issue. If you don't remember, it lost a little bit of its peg. Not quite as much as USDC.
Right.
But did the government come in and help Tether? So I'm just not sure if USDC is going to go away. I had to pay attention to it, but I would really supremely be interested in your research on that. And then the other thing was the ISO compliant coins. Because there's not really an official list of these coins are compliant with ISO, and these are the approved ISO coins. It's just a lot of speculation.
For sure.
I just wanted to add that in because it's not a definitive, because I've even heard some things. Is Algorand on that list?
Technically. It's XLM. It's XLM, Stellar Lumens, XDC, which is Infin Network, Quant, IOTA, Algorand, HBAR, and XRP. Yeah. But for me, like the way that I look at it is like I'm not betting on multiple horses here. I'm just picking XRP because I don't want to have 100 different holdings. I have a very simplified long-term wealth plan, and with crypto as a part of that wealth plan, it's not everything. So for me, I'm just betting on the one that I see to make the most sense, and I've already made gains on these other coins in the past, so I know how it all operates. I don't want to I don't want to make my life more complex when it comes to my portfolio. I want to simplify it.
I respect that. I do. With XDC, that's Zenfin, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
It had an amazing bull run back in 2021.
So a friend of mine, somebody who watches the channel, a supporter of the channel, local guy, David Brumbelow, he had sent me some information. He's giving me the idea, and I haven't had a chance to research everything that he sent me, but that Zenfin is somehow going to make Bitcoin ISO compliant. And I don't know if you looked into this enough to be able to even. I haven't, so I don't know if do you know anything about what I just mentioned?
I don't, but one of the developers, programmers for Zenfin used to be a Patreon supporter of mine for a long time. I'm not sure if he still is, but shout out to him. He used to communicate with me when I was decoding it a bunch. I did a full decode on Zenfin Network a while ago in this thing called Gematria Masterclass, and it brought a lot of attention. I don't have any other communications outside of that, but he never told me anything about that connection you just made with making ISO compliant.
Yeah, I'm just curious because if he's watching, he can reach out to me. My contact information is in a video description. If he would love to do, I would love to do an interview or talk privately about what he can and can't share, because the ticker is obviously, I think, part of it as well, because like XRP is XRP, XLM is XLM. And when you look at some of these things in the markets, they have X in front of their ticker. And I think it's XBC or XBT is there's another ticker for Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, and this is something that I was just going to say. So thank you.
Which one was it? Is it X? I'm gonna look at the Bitcoin.
You're talking about Bitcoin? It's XBT.
Yeah, XBT. Okay,
correct.
So what is the difference between XBT Bitcoin and BTC Bitcoin?
I don't actually, to be completely honest, I think Kraken has XBT, but it's the same. It's interchangeable. The ticker symbol doesn't necessarily matter at all when it comes to these digital coins, because it's all make-believe. They could just name it whatever they want. That's why this ISO compliant thing is taken so seriously, because that was what it was for. It's to create a standardized system for naming the ticker, as far as I understand. I mean, of course, there's much more going on, but yeah, XBT.
Yeah, so what it's saying in this article is Let's see here. Specifically, currencies like USD, Bitcoin, and even gold follow ISO 4217 standards published in the 1978 by the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, that defines alpha codes and numeric codes for the representation of currencies. But much like everything else related to sometimes unorthodox cryptocurrency market, Bitcoin confusingly trades under two separate price symbols, XBT and BTC. Okay. And it means it specifically applies to being ISO 4217 standard, in which Bitcoin follows similar guidelines of other non-national currencies such as gold, silver, palladium, and more. It's interesting.
Yeah, this is something that's very a big part of it all. But I, as a technical analyst and where I'm at with this whole game, I try to stay away from the Bitcoin conversation with the ISO conversation, because a lot of the people that are in like the so-called XRP army are like anti-Bitcoin. And some of them might think that I'm a Bitcoin maxi, but I cover XRP in every video. So I just don't want to be in the cult of any of that shit. And that ISO conversation becomes very, very odd with Bitcoin in combination with it. So for me, I just look at Bitcoin like it's the power plant of the entire cryptocurrency market. I do have an entire chapter dedicated to that decoding mastermind that I'm going to release to prove the mythology behind everything, going from Genesis block to when Satoshi got captured the domain name bitcoin.org, all the dates connected to it, into the fork of Litecoin, which eventually forked into Dogecoin. I'm going to break it all down, bringing it back to the mythology and show people how this really works. And it will start to make people be less tribalistic and against Bitcoin and only pro one token. Because that shit needs to end. If you want to become a sophisticated investor, you can't be tribalistic and cult-like around one token. You're always going to lose the game. Now, with also, just to finalize that, if you chose only Bitcoin 10 years ago, you won. You definitely swung a many home runs there, So it just is what it is. I don't get why everyone is so against the best performing asset class of all time.
Yeah, I mean, and I know this is going to like trigger the XRP people, because I mean, I'm not a pro banker in any capacity. I'm not pro traditional finance. I want to see it end. We're seeing cracks in the system now. So for these people now, I do own XRP. I do expect the price of XRP to go up, and I'm going to take my XRP and trade it, and I'm going to buy more Bitcoin. That's my goal with the concept. But for people to be, in a sense, this adamant about XRP, knowing what XRP is trying to do, and they're partners with the World Economic Forum, it's not necessarily the best thing to sit there and go, "Hoorah, I'm part of the XRP army. We're down with the World Economic Forum. We're part of that Great Reset agenda. Woo!" It's just, I can't get behind it. And I've had this conversation with Ben Armstrong, who's become it's the self-proclaimed leader of the XRP army. But I can't get behind it. I don't have any problem with other people doing it. It's just I can't see, because a lot of the people in the XRP community seem to be very freedom oriented and seem to care about those kind of values. And it seems like, why would you put so much love into this brand that seems like it's going to be part of the continued system of slavery to keep you enslaved into this whole fucking blockchain system?
Yeah, it's called blockchain. Like, you're chained to the block. They're not like, there's not hiding anything here. But my thing that I want to say is another shout out to Bearable Bull, because I'm really grateful that he allowed me and my truth on his channel, which is one of the biggest XRP communities out there, and I know he shares what he shares. But him allowing me that platform for me to tell it how it is and exactly my vision, was just really, it showed me that he's loosening up, and he's going to start to look at this in a way that could be very beneficial for his somewhat 180,000, almost 200,000 subscribers. So yeah, that was really big, because people would consider me at one point like the enemy of the XRP army, but I'm like, well, I was the guy telling you that I was selling around $1.20, 30, 40 back when it last hit that price. Like, I even have a video on my YouTube channel anyone could go to now where I talk about the recent pump in XRP. It made a little move up. I talked about how it typically makes these Bart Simpson heads. It made the Bart head and it came right back down. Like, I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings. I'm trying to help them to take action in this market and to benefit from it. And it's just what's happening with this XRP army community is they are sticking together on hopium for the day that never comes. And if they continue to act like that, they're never going to be able to prosper in their investment thesis.
Yeah, I mean, crypto is so much more than just, like you said, one coin, no matter what. I mean, I think it's just very toxic to have that viewpoint, in my opinion.
Right.
I've seen so much change in technology in my life. I mean, I like to even like I've used this example a lot. For it's creative destruction is what it's called. Is when you have new technologies that make other technologies obsolete. And technology is always going to advance to a point that, like, when things come out, like new technologies, things are very expensive. Computers are very expensive, but throughout time, they've been able to get them down to a very reasonable price in a lot of areas.
Right.
So music is a good example for change in technology, because we started out with these phonographs, records. Then we go to 8-tracks, cassettes, to CDs, to micro discs, to MP3s, to streaming. And so, like, if you were a cassette maxi, you know, or a
Like,
CD
it sounds
maxi,
crazy, right? Like, it sounds
right? Yeah,
crazy to have to tell it to people
technology
like
is
this,
going
but
to
this is how,
advance, and there's going someone or some group is going to be inspired by everything that's been created and create something better. So to get attached to something like this, especially something that you can't, like, is so intangible. It becomes almost like when you like cult-ish for sure, but it almost seems like a religion, which could go into terms of cult. So
Absolutely.
it's just
I mean, it's a comfortable place to be, to have the day that never comes, because you just live in anticipation. And living in anticipation, it feeds prana into people in a very interesting way. I talk about it quite often in my live streams that I do. Like, why people tend to not take action. And we spoke on this actually right before we started recording. We were talking about too many choices and how higher IQ is likely to make less choices because they overanalyze. Yeah, this is all part of the psychology, and markets are a psychological roller coaster. And when you learn the rules of the game, you start to effectively so-called break them, and then you prosper.
yeah.
It just is what it is. And most people, they don't want to learn a skill. They don't want to actually develop a strong investment thesis that's centered around their personal cash flow system, their personal income, their personal, So here's the thing. They're waiting around for content to be delivered to them. And this is never going to set you free. Like, you want to be inspired by the content that it inspires you to take action, not where you're just inspired to continue to consume and continue to watch videos endlessly and never take action. I think this comes back around to what I was saying about Jason's theory, which, again, it's an incredible theory. It's plausible. It has its merit, but the New World Order wants you to just be a content. It wants you to become obese from how much content you consume. It wants you to watch 15 different financial YouTubers, so you never know what the truth is. You're just always like teeter-tottering between it all. And what it could be, if you learn how to turn a weapon into a tool, is it could be 15 brilliant people that align in whatever capacity. You resonate with some of them, you don't resonate with some of them, you're willing to accept their opinions and their differences, but ultimately you create your own thesis. You create your own process of elimination of what's truth and what isn't, what I should, give more of my attention to, what I should not. So I tell people, like, if you're going on YouTube and you're watching 20 different people's opinions, that's great. But if it's not allowing you to make your own decisions and you're just like always kind of stuck in this cyclone of opinions, well, then you're going to need to trim some of the fat, man. Unsubscribe from some of that nonsense. And if it's dramatic, If it's like these thumbnail with the guys with the O faces, yeah, like you gotta, that's one of your key signs that like it might not be solid gnosis. Yeah.
I gotta use that for the
And I,
thumbnail.
yeah, you should make it. That'd be so funny if they get to this part. But hey, man, I mean, I really do appreciate chatting with you. If there's any like final things you'd want to touch on,
No,
I
that's what
think
I was
we
gonna ask
covered
you.
most of it though.
Yeah, I didn't even think we were gonna go this long. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course, man.
I definitely would like to revisit the conversation in about a month, right before the eclipse. Kind of get a feel for where we're at. If you're good with that, we could talk more
Yeah.
about that. But do you have anything that you want to add other than I will say that there's going to be links down below for not only your website, which people can check out your different courses, your YouTube channel. If people want to subscribe and check out the videos you talked about, if they're not subscribed, I definitely encourage them to. If they want to support your work, they can check out your Patreon channel. You also have a shop available on your website with different merch, and also your Twitter account will all be linked down below, in addition to the other things. So anything that you want to add, my friend?
Thank you so much for having me on again. Thank you. I'm grateful for you and your community. Really appreciate the support. Thank you for sharing all of my links as well. One thing I will say, just an update, I'm planning to make decodes for the October eclipse in later this year. I'm going to be making a Satoshi Nakamoto decode, and I will also be making my next decode that I'm releasing next week is going to be about sell in May, walk away. I'm going to literally just decode that and give all my rhyme and reason to 2 key dates that I found in May that add up to, just supporting all of my theories so far about how the rest of this so-called bear market is gonna go. So that'll be over on my Patreon for anyone who's in the mastermind community.
Well, sell in May, walk away. I mean, it's kind of a very trad-fi saying, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
Because it's
it's
like
said in,
summertime. Let's go enjoy summer. We've been trading our balls off all year. We're gonna take the summer off, and we'll see each other back in September, October.
yep. No, they go out to their golf courses and like chill out and do whatever they got to do, take their vacations, and then they do their bull runs always when it's cold and snowy. And yeah, it's pretty amazing when you see how the way this market works. It's like the most historic market crashes are during the October timeframe, but also most of our massive blow off tops are in December, January. And then you always have that kind of lull in the summer. So I don't see this time being any different. But final words of wisdom is this May through October, I think is going to be a very big opportunity for people. It is. And if you're overexposed to the market, you should maybe consider that if we get any energy in the next couple months, just think about your overall plan. Think about the fact that inflation's not going anywhere, and just, do what you got to do to protect you and your family.
Well said. Bear with me real quick while I do the wrap up. Again, there's going to be a link down below for everything we talked about. Also, there's going to be a link for the playlist with all the previous appearances that Jordan has made on the show. So be sure to check those out if you're new to Jordan's content. Again, make sure you're subscribed to his channel. Make sure you're subscribed to both of my YouTube channels here at Rice TVX and my other channel, Rice Against the Grain. And I will leave you with this. I encourage you, as always, to be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch that you want to see in the matrix. Be the change that you want to see in the world. And until next time, practice change.